Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Max.
Here we are, three of us.
Yeah.
Full order. The Menendez brothers, Resentencing explained.
Yeah.
Big news at the moment.
Yeah.
It's all come to light that I don't know if you know the story behind it.
I don't.
I do know a bit of it, yeah.
Same.
I'm not an expert on it, but
Yeah.
I'm aware of it.
I was talking to Aidan about it the other day because this happened probably way before Aidan was interested in anything. Other than, try to sort of like see how far he could throw a stone or something like that. It's but the Menendez brothers, they got put away for killing the parents, didn't they?
That's right.
Sentenced to life or whatever it was.
I think it's supposed to be for the life insurance, was it something?
Potentially.
Initially.
Yeah, and then it turns out now that there's news evidence coming about from cousins and I think maybe a sibling, is it something that
other relations.
They were abused as by the father.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a new. I don't know if it's a new, but there's like a Netflix documentary or something like that.
It's relatively new.
Apparently, it does try
series.
and make people feel a bit sorry for him, being like, "Oh no, but the mum left." Like, no,
Should we get into this? See what it's about. I know it's a Watch Mojo.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll give us the info we need without it being blocked. So
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
for it.
You have every ingredient you could possibly want in a trial. You've got Beverly Hills, you've got murder, and then you've got one other ingredient. It's now on television.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're breaking down the wild legal saga of the Menendez brothers, including the LA District Attorney's recommendation that could see them walk free after nearly 30 years in prison.
Wow.
They have been in prison for nearly 35 years. I believe that they have paid their debt to society.
Horrible events bonded us in a way that will never be broken.
By now, you're probably pretty familiar with the torrid trials and tribulations of Lyle and Eric Menendez. For the uninitiated, though, it's important to remember that at one point, the Menendez brothers' case was considered the trial of the century and captivated the public's attention.
It's been 34 years of incarceration. And for the first time, I feel like it's a conversation where people now can understand.
This was largely due to the deeply heinous nature of the brothers' crimes, in addition to their circumstances. Lyle and Eric were the sons of Jose and Kitty Menendez, a highly successful career businessman and former beauty queen, respectively. Perhaps even more significantly than that, the Menendez family lived in Beverly Hills, California. Cut to August 20th, 1989, when Lyle and Eric called 911 to report that they had found their parents brutally shot to death in their living room. The first question on everyone's minds was, how could this happen here?
It's not supposed to happen in Beverly Hills. A movie executive and his wife were brutally slain in their million-dollar mansion. There were no clues and no suspects.
For nearly a year, the Menendez brothers were unwavering in their hypothesis that their parents had been slain by the mafia, possibly as retaliation for a business deal gone tragically awry.
Let's just run downstairs for a strike. We both entered the house that night through the front door.
Yeah.
And you went directly in the family room?
Oh, yeah, I usually do.
Jose did indeed have a reputation for being a shark that is notoriously unscrupulous in his work, willing to say and do anything to anyone in order to close such a deal. After all potential leads had dissipated, local authorities began to focus their attention on the brothers themselves.
The idea that I was having a good time is absurd. Everything was to cover up this horrible pain of not wanting to be alive.
After all, their $700,000 spending spree in the wake of the killings had raised several eyebrows. How?
I think that's where the first suspicions came about, wasn't it? They went on a spending
spend
spree.
a lot of money.
A lot of dough, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a great look, is it, really?
No. But it's,
Certainly the red flags were risen then, weren't they? Because, it looks like, to all intents and purposes, that we're possibly going to get away with it as well. If they'd just kept a low profile, maybe they wouldn't have been suspects as such.
It's a funny sort of situation because if they have been abused, then do you sort of like say 34 years is long enough, or if it's it's still murder.
The thing is, that's coming to light now, but you'd think if that was a reason at the time that they would have flagged it up then. So this is actually the reason. Yeah. Obviously, at first they were trying to get away with it, weren't they? So
with the others not sort of like coming forward though. I don't know if they might talk about it here, but I think was it mentioned at the original trial?
Not sure, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Maybe maybe it was. I could be.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might have been mentioned, but blown out. No, dismissed.
Right, okay.
How could two young men, ostensibly in mourning following the graphic murders of their parents, feel like going out and buying, en masse no less, Rolexes, a Porsche Carrera, and a $50,000 tennis coach?
They started spending the money as if it was water, as if they've been desperate for that kind of money.
As we know now, Lyle and Eric Menendez were responsible for killing their parents. Once the police determined this, the brothers were swiftly arrested and held separately at the Los Angeles County Jail.
There should have been a police response, and we would have been arrested. We had no alibi. The gunpowder residue was all over our hands. Under normal circumstances, they give you a gunpowder residue test.
But, to be clear, they didn't voluntarily give themselves up. No, their admission of guilt inadvertently came from Eric himself, having confessed to the murders on tape as he was being recorded by his therapist, Dr. L. Jerome Oziel.
I and any therapist carries with him or with her at all times hundreds or thousands of people's secrets.
I thought you have to keep it serious. It looks like he's been rubbing a balloon on his head, that guy. Proper static hair, that, it's proper 80s do that.
Oh, wow, just a bit. Yeah, well, it's supposed to be like confidential sort of like information, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bit like a lawyer and solicitors and stuff like that, you know, whatever they say from the, or whatever the client says to them, it's supposed to be like, remain that way, isn't it?
But can the police...
Like an oath.
Can the police then request the tapes then? Being like, well,
I think if you're in certain positions like doctors and stuff, I think you can. Yeah. And like therapists, I think you can actually deny it, can't you? Say, no, I'm going to give you the evidence. I think so. Yeah. It's like privileged information, isn't it?
Yeah. Guess so.
You know, you take an oath when you're a lawyer and everything. You know.
Yeah, I understand.
What they hear is between them
to the judge, then, isn't it?
Well, that's so crazy to think. How many people could have like said, "Oh yeah, I've murdered someone"? You're like, well, he knows, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Would you want to live with that being a therapist?
Well, maybe that's why he spilt the beans. Yeah. If he did, I'm guessing he did, but we'll find out, won't we?
We'll find out. Yeah.
And it is it's a sacred obligation to preserve those secrets.
Ready for yet another curveball? Oziel didn't bring those tapes to the police himself. Rather, Judalon Smith, his mistress, looking to take revenge on Oziel for refusing to leave his wife, took it upon herself to inform the authorities of what the doctor was in possession of, while simultaneously aiming to press charges against Oziel himself.
I tried to give the information that I had that would, you know, lead them to be able to make an arrest.
As is unfortunately all too common in legal trials, court proceedings were delayed for 2 years as the admissibility of Oziel's recordings as evidence was hotly debated.
It ended up in the California Supreme Court on the issue of these tapes, whether or not the facts were sufficient to get a waiver of the psychotherapist patient privilege.
After a judge's 1990 ruling that the tapes were valid was appealed, a subsequent 1992 Supreme Court of California ruling once again determined that. That is to say, with the highly notable exception of the tape on which Eric Menendez made his fateful confession, the tapes were mostly admissible. An LA County grand jury formally charged the brothers with the murder of their parents in December 1992.
It was just very tragic for me personally that something I was doing to try to keep a secret from coming out was the reason that my brother then said, and Leslie, well, now you have to.
Another fateful decision that would alter the trajectory of the case and possibly American pop culture as a whole, the fact that cameras were allowed into the courtroom, creating the now infamous media circus that the case is largely known for. Lyle and Eric's trials, yes, trials plural, dragged on for 4 years.
I deeply did not want to talk about anything that happened in our past. And so my main concern was trying to avoid that at all costs.
In their respective courtroom experiences, the brothers were initially tried separately. Eric's lawyer, Leslie Abramson, laid out the now immortalized defense that shook the nation and the world.
And what happened after that?
Jose hit Lyle with his closed fist.
Did he seem to hit him hard?
Yes, he did.
Lyle would have been about 5 years old at this
Yes.
Abramson revealed that Lyle and Eric had made a shocking confession to her. Jose was a violent abuser, with Kitty acting as a silent bystander while the abuse was carried out. The argument was that the brothers were motivated to kill their parents as a result of years of severe systematic mistreatment.
People who have such small contact with my father saying, this was the most intimidating, worst human I've met in my whole life. So that's why there was 0 character witnesses on my parents' behalf. Why couldn't you find that one person?
The brothers' emotional testimonies, but particularly Lyle's, were so harrowing and so moving that Judge Stanley Weisberg declared a hung jury and implemented a number of limitations on their second trial held from 1995 into 1996.
Was doing what your father wanted of you important?
That's what made him happy, and that's what I wanted to do.
Why did you want to make him happy?
So he would love me.
The latter trial banned the media from the courtroom, and perhaps most crucially, heavily restricted discussions of the alleged abuse. These decisions are speculated to have influenced the jury's thinking. And on July 2nd, 1996, nearly 7 years after the Menendez brothers took their parents' lives, Judge Weisberg sentenced Lyle and Eric to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
We would have these talks, and he would show me, and he would fondle me, and he would ask me to do the same with him, and I would touch him, and we would undress.
At this point, we should note that public opinion regarding Lyle and Eric was deeply unfavorable.
They should suffer just like their parents did.
The public couldn't get enough. Overnight, the Menendez case blew up all over the world.
With general audiences mostly sharing the sentiment that the brothers were spoiled rich kids who were lying about their alleged abuse and were motivated by greed, having simply sought to lay claim to their father's vast fortune, estimated by the New York Times to be valued at $32 million, adjusted for inflation in 2024.
Oh, come on, they're so adorable. They are too fine to go to prison. Whoa! I know they don't exactly have an airtight case, okay? Lyle went on a little bit of a spending spree a week after the murders.
However, this all changed in the 2020s when something curious happened.
It's annoying her.
No, just a bit.
Kathy Griffin, is it?
Is that who it is? Well, I'm not sure who it is, to be honest.
It looks like her. Sounds a bit like her.
Right. But clearly, at the original trial, or the last one anyway, they did bring it up, didn't they, about the abuse as well. So, yeah, you're right. It was out there at the time, wasn't it? So, but now,
it's weird.
What you're saying now is
lying.
Well, yeah, but now is it other people have come up and sort of corroborated
cousin,
it?
I think it was a cousin.
Was it? Right.
Who's
Okay.
seen it?
Is it a sibling?
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
not
as
sure.
well. I'm not sure on that. 100%. But I remember reading a cousin, but then someone else as well. I think 2 people.
Right. Okay.
Or aunt maybe.
Yeah.
Right. A grassroots TikTok campaign gradually emerged, demanding the brothers' release.
I went to TikTok and found thousands of videos. Most of them are becoming very well educated on the case.
These TikTok users cited the unequal treatment they'd received as men who claimed abuse.
There was a healing and a lifting of a weight from having talked openly about it. I began to receive a lot of letters from other victims, and I began to connect with their own experiences because they were similar to mine.
The push to free the brothers grew stronger in mid-2024 when Ryan Murphy's Monsters debuted on Netflix, depicting a fictionalized version of the events of the case that was seen as largely sympathetic to them.
This is done. This is done. You understand? No more between you two. And you are never to touch him. Not ever.
This was alongside the Menendez brothers, a documentary also released by Netflix that interviewed individuals who had historically been involved with the case in a modern-day context. Amid a surge of support for the brothers, buoyed by these Netflix releases, LA District Attorney George Gascon announced on Thursday, October 24, 2024, that he was formally recommending resentencing Lyle and Eric to the Judiciary of California.
I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate. And I am going to recommend that to a court tomorrow.
It should be noted that the Netflix projects were not the only factors contributing to Gascon's decision.
When defendants are younger than 25 at the time of the commission of the crime, there is now a new law, new legislation that allows those individuals to receive early parole.
2 new groundbreaking pieces of evidence, unveiled relatively recently before the announcement, played a huge part. These would be a letter written by Eric to his cousin Andy Cano, which detailed Jose's abuse, as well as Eric's deteriorating mental state as a result. The other was a damning 2023 Peacock documentary in which Menudo boy band member Roy Rosselló accused the late Jose Menendez of drugging and assaulting him at just 14 years of age.
Los quiero en la máquina de Coca-Cola, en la fiambrera, los juguetes. Menudo va a ser el grupo más grande del mundo.
Before we continue, be sure to...
Menudo? Was Ricky Martin in Menudo?
Ooh, don't know. Don't think I've heard of it, to be honest.
Just sounds familiar for some reason. I don't know.
Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Other information that led to the recommendation included attestation on the part of prison officials on the brothers' behalf.
They could have done what many other people do, which is basically said, you know what, I'm here for the rest of my life, so I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to misbehave, I'm going to join gangs.
These represent, as outlined by the New York Times, working as, quote, hospice aides to help sick inmates, for running Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and meditation groups for inmates, and for completing college courses.
But they never did that. To the contrary, even though they didn't think that they would ever be let free, they engaged in a different journey.
In a letter written on Lyle's behalf by Victor H. Cortez, an employee of the prison where the brothers are incarcerated, effusively praises the elder Menendez brother for, quote, dedicating himself to personal growth, the betterment of his fellow inmates, and overall stability of the prison environment. After 3 decades in prison, the Menendez brothers' release would represent a significant advancement for victims of abuse, particularly young men.
However, because of their age, under the law, since they were under 26 years of age, at the time that these crimes occurred, they would be eligible for parole immediately.
What do you think of the Menendez brothers' case? Let us know in the comments below.
I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't
Very
it?
complex, isn't it? And it's who you believe, who you don't
Yeah,
believe.
it's murder at the end of the day. But if you've gone through abuse, I have no sympathy for the abuser.
Oh, no,
absolutely,
absolutely.
whatsoever. Whatever the repercussions are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just can't believe how big the media campaign was to support them. I can't believe there's like a big wave of like people wanting to see them free. Because again, I agree with the abuser point. But they've still murdered 2 people.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of that goes out the window nowadays with sympathy.
Well, it's emotion, isn't it? Yeah.
I think because of the abuse thing, I think that's why basically the goalposts have changed in this case, isn't it? Plus the fact that they've got the new rule coming out that if you're under a certain age, then you can actually go for parole.
Yeah.
So I guess in that sense that they'd sort of be eligible for it, as a lot of other people will be as well.
If you look at it from another perspective, if there was no social media, if there was no TikTok or no X or anything like that, would you still get that same
treatment?
True.
Yeah, the same what's the word? Support.
Yeah,
that goes through.
Yeah,
when you look at the size of TikTok now, you could put a campaign on TikTok and you could be reaching millions and millions and millions of people, all agreeing, all jumping on that same bandwagon. And sort of like saying, this is if they've been abused, then they should be free.
And it gets to the stage where the public opinion is that big that people in charge say, well,
you've got to do something.
Public opinion is that we should release them, and I think it sort of like plays into the decision that they ultimately make.
The public, because of social media, the public has a voice to be whether to be heard or not to be heard. It's with freedom of speech and all that sort of thing. But there's a lot of shit you read on social media as well, where you think what. It's like, but it's there. But people have that platform still to be heard, no matter what they've got to say.
And whatever it is, if it's in the US or UK,
everyone gets it.
There's actually a programme, I think it's on BBC Two at the moment, called Parole, which I've been watching. It's really interesting about people coming up for parole and what the parole board do, what they talk about, how they go about coming to the decision.
People.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. But the sort of like the main thing is, are you a danger to the public still? Are you going to commit the same crime again? That is one of the main things that they're looking for.
Yeah. And when you look at that with the Menendez brothers, were they potentially murderers in society, or was it just aimed at these 2 people who were abusing
them? Yeah.
Was that an isolated incident?
Yeah. Was that the catalyst? Was that the thing that just triggered them, sent them over the edge, sort of thing? So it's so complex. Yeah, of course it is. And you've got people that are going to be responsible for releasing them if they do. So that's why they've got to be sure that
if they go out and do it again, then it's just a massive failure to society.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course it is.
Which happens. So it does happen a lot.
Of course.
But it's really interesting case.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's one to watch. Yeah, it's like say Aiden's got hooked on it. He's sort of like following it, and he's sort of like following the whole scenario. And I said to him, "What do you make of it?" He went, "I don't know. It's hard to sort of like put an opinion across."
I think that's the main thing. Because at the start, before watching this video, I was thinking 2 murderers might be getting out.
Yeah, but you're too young to remember it as well, aren't you?
Well,
you weren't even born when it happened. No, but I mean, I wasn't born when World War II went on, but I still know what happened.
Yeah.
It's one of them things because it was so big in the news.
That's right.
It's stuff that's sort of like become very relevant, and especially once you get Netflix start showing videos and movies on it.
Yeah,
and then that bandwagon sort of like jumps. I mean, Netflix must have done. They said there they did Monster, they did Menendez. He must have done how many Menendez sort of like documentaries have they been?
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, if you remember, everyone jumped on that Jeffrey Dahmer sort of like
years
ago, made it massive. Again, it all blew up again. You know?
Is that a bad thing though? Do you think? Because a lot of people will glorify it.
It kind of is a bit glorified in the modern society because these people like these people are crazy. They will look at that and go, they don't necessarily mean they'll go out and replicate it. It's like saying someone who plays Call of Duty or something like that goes out and starts shooting people. GTA. You know, people go out and they don't behave like some people would. You know, without a doubt they're influenced by it. But I don't think the majority are.
Yeah, vast majority aren't influenced, are they, at all? No. But it's people that probably always get triggered by something. That create these, will do these crimes.
And then you get the ones that are blaming the one guy who done it, and blaming saying that's what happens when you have games like this, or that's when you happens when you have this. You know, it's that's what causes it.
Yeah, it's like was it the Ted Bundy trial, and even the judge who like sentenced him was like, "Oh, this is a shame." And you're like, what are you talking about? This guy's like killed 15, 16 people. Shame you represent yourself really well. He still killed 17 people.
It's all bonkers now.
Yeah, it's
mad. Just got to be a part of the madhouse, haven't you?
Yeah,
so like trying to survive the madhouse.
But
really interesting.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed that as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers.